Hi, good morning. How are we all doing? We good? Welcome to our last session for the Anderson Lecture Series in fall 2025. I thank you all for coming here today. My name is Beatrice Atenka, and I'm the chair for the John Muller Anderson Lecture Series. And in this capacity, I coordinate the programming of the Anderson Lecture Series along with the events and award committee members. This is a wonderful space that has been provided to us by the Party Library through Lauren David. So I would like to thank her and the entire team for making us all comfortable and helping us with arrangements. It also feels comfortable being in this lecture, and this is going to be, this is also a privilege done through the John M. Anderson Endowment. So with this lecture, there's going to be a question and answer after the talk. So I do want you to think about that, and then we can put our submissions as soon as it's done. Now I would like to talk a little bit about the history for John Muller Anderson lecture series. Dr. John Muller Anderson, Professor Emeritus, was the Ivan Poo Research Professor of Philosophy and the first director of Penn State Institute for the Arts and Humanities. His passion for the philosophy of art and painting resulted in his generous gift, from which we as a community have greatly benefited. The John Muller Anderson Endowment in Visual Arts was established in 2001 with the purpose of supporting outstanding programming such as this lecture series and related activities with guest artists we bring to our campuses to interact with our students and community. All Anderson events are free of charge and they are open to the public. I'd like to thank the former director of the School of Visual Arts, Wagner Mendoka Whitehead, the interim director, Eduardo Navas, my SOVA colleagues in the event and award committee members, and those who have continued to greatly contribute to the smooth and successful carrying out of this series that we are still experiencing. And this is our last one, so thank you. As already mentioned, there will be a Q&A session after that. And you're also reminded that this lecture is being recorded. And we will have this in internal and external sharing platforms, such as the Arts and Architecture YouTube channel. So please, I will encourage you to kind of like visit there afterwards. Now I'm about to introduce our artist, Sunkoo Yuh. Artist Sunkoo Yuh creates ceramic sculptures composed of tight groupings of various forms, including plants, animals, fish, and human figures. Paintings and installations are being transformed otherwise worthless materials into valuable objects and encounters. Whilst Korean art and Buddhist, Christian, and Confucian beliefs inform some aspects of his imagery, his work is largely driven by implied narratives that often suggest socio-political critiques. He is currently a professor of art in the University of Georgia. Sunkoo's work have been exhibited widely and received many awards and honors, including Joan Mitchell Foundation grant, the grand prize at the Second World Ceramic Biennale International Competition, and third prize from the Virginia A. Groot Foundation. I encountered Sunkoo's work in grad school, the first ever ceramic gigantic sculptural piece I had seen with numerous forms composed as one work. In a period of 2 days, he had raised a gigantic sculpture huge enough to fill 2 seats. Through his hard work, determination, and strength, he motivates both the young and the old, and it is with this same reason I invite him to the podium to share with us many more that we yearn to learn from. So help me with an applause to welcome Sunkoo Yuh.
Can you hear me? Okay. Thank you for the invitation and opportunity to show my work. at Penn State. Was here 36 years ago from Kent State University. At the time, I was a special student for 1 year. And I think, the event was a lecture. Then a few of our students, drove down here and, I listened and watched that lecture, I think, It's kind of scary. 36 years, 35 years, so fast. Um, I would like to, talk about actually some issues to this, lecture because, this has been my kind of journey as an artist from the beginning. And I think, most artists desire to find their unique voice. And they want to express themselves their own language, I think, So this lecture is going to be my effort from the beginning. And I had the same kind of, questions. And I try to answer that questions. And until this point, I'm still struggling, with new questions, what I have. So I grew up actually in Korea and educated over there. And I got my BFA degree from Hongik University in ceramics. By the time I graduate, I felt I don't know much about the medium I'm dealing with. And also about my work. I can tell what I really want to try to make. I have no clue, not much a clue. So as a young uh, kind of artist, I decided to come to the United States for 10 years. I said, uh, not as a student, but I just want to come here and meet people and work and experience and to find out who am I. And after 10 years, I will go back to Korea and set up my studio. Life, you plan, it's not happening in that way, but that was my original plan. Then I came to the States and my English was really poor at the time. And I don't have any connection. So really hard to find the opportunity to work. But the professor at the time at Kansas State University, Kirk Mangus, a wonderful genius artist. I met him when he visited Korea. And I helped him organize a workshop for him. So I knew him. So I called him. And he kind of invited me to Kent State University for 1 year as a special student. So I can audit classes and make my own work. And I was so happy for 1 year. And I start to understand and recognize the university system and that educational system in the state is different than Korea. So that whole, the goal or purpose I was here that I can probably accomplish it in one as a student. I back to students, then it will probably all if I can meet, professors and artists, then I can use the facility at school if I pay a little bit of tuition. So I become, this is probably the time I just arrived. Yeah, I traveled a lot, and nature. I think it's one of the national park, right? Bryce Canyon, I think, yeah. So I become a graduate student, but my goal was not degree actually. As I mentioned earlier, I want to just work and to understand myself, to to understand myself. I had a very naive kind of idea uh, at the time. So I wanted to make unique artwork. It's different than others. So my idea was I am the one very unique existence in the world. So if I understand myself well, and if I can express myself honestly, then my work naturally become uniquer than others. So, I mean, this is what I started with, that naive idea, and I started making a body of work. It called self-portrait. When I'm looking back, at the time, I was find some meaning of my work and my life, and it was pretty broad and pretty deep, questions. It's which is it really hard to answer it. Then I looking back my work, and I have some, multiple personality, and it looks like a wounded, and I have many tumors, or I think it was a gut I have in my body, and it seems like trapped, and but also I wish to fly somewhere I can dream about, and probably magical place. And the other side, I looking back, this is kind of assorted candy jar to me. I try to uh, add all the different technique which I can build. So there's a foam from the wheel drone. There's a foam from I press mold, and foam from I cast it. Then I can add it all the material I can possibly add from the high temperature glazes, sleeve, terrasigillata, or fuse with the glaze, then with the multiple firing. Michael yesterday said he fired 7 times his work, but I probably fired dozens of times and put it back onto gas to salt, and whatever I can do, I just keep on going. I also try to find out, some influence from my ancestor, that kind of, cultural heritage, what I have. And this is the Joseon Dynasty Buncheonware, and it produced maybe 15, 16, 17 centuries, which is 400, 500 years ago. But when I see this uh, as a contemporary viewer's eye, it's not really outdated. Then I was so curious about that, and it's pretty modern to me. So I was wondering about what's the secret kind of ingredient they have. I thought about longevity of art, which most of us, desire to make that happen. After you die, your art still memory from somebody else's. And if you're looking at history a little deeper, the Joseon dynasty has, you know, the social hierarchy. And the artisan, the potters, not normal people. There's a scholars and loyal families as a highest class, and and normal people, farmers, then artisans like a slave. Then I questioned myself, how come they transcend their class situation and their environment? They make this kind of art, and I want to know their mentors. That is how they can make this happen. And the other works I really influenced is the folk painting in same Joseon dynasty. But I haven't seen these drawings many in Korea. But I found a book which is published in Japanese publisher. And first time I see this book, and page by page, my heart pounds faster and faster. And I don't know what that was, but I can, share whatever as a Korean descendant, my ancestors, and I have kind of empathy, and I can feel something. So I studied this, the drawings for many times. I found few things. There's multi viewpoints. There's lots of colors, which is this uh, era, that Joseon Dynasty. The philosophical pillars is Confucianism. Then Confucianists really love pure thing, and ceramics they love celadon, which is the porcelain, actually the white porcelain they really admire. And in lower class they use this lots of the colors, and they use lots of symbols about kind of a human desire, like longevity, fertility, well-being, and good marriage kind of signs. And also, there is a definitely humor in this drawing. I think, this drawings are drawn by the farmer in the village after they harvest, all their crop and prepare the winter, cold winters. Then they protect, from the cold wind. They just set it up their screens in front of the door. Then this amateur, never trained, uh, person draw these, images and share to the villagers. So I got this, kind of element. Then I try to use in my work. And about 10 years while I'm working, I start to draw this ink drawings, which is very spontaneously and intuitively I draw. And sometimes I'm in the zone, and I just stand in front of this just paper with ink and drawings. I start draw with the eyes and nose, and some images just comes out from inside of my mind, I think. And I draw these images, but some images I understand, but some images I don't understand why it's coming out. It's just some images, some concerns about my relationship, that I have as a person, the vertical relationship. and, and horizontal relationship, and another diagonal, relationship as a human, as a person I have. And sometimes, I feel like I vomit this, images. Uh, and after this, drawings session, I felt like, I had a confession time. I study this, images for time, and I put these images on the top of my wall of my studio. Then I wait until I got some courage to make three-dimensional sculpture out of this. And sometimes one or two images I select and I make a sculpture. And because it's a two-dimensional images, I have to push and pull and create this space. And I make small and big. I made this, it's a sculpture out of porcelain, which is a white clay body. And this, three-dimensional sculpture means I don't have front or back or side. It's all around. For many years, I thought, my sculpture has many unknown kind of narrative, kind of interwoven in one work. It depends on viewer, their cultural background, and their ethnic background. They watch one side and certain direction. They can create their own narratives. I use maybe 30 to 40 different glazes on the top of each other. Uh, Many artists once, their work is different than others. And for that reason, I know, many artists wants to refine their technical skills and conceptual skills. But I should, add one more things because, everybody wants to control more and more when they work. Then I wanted to add one more element, which is an uncontrollable aspect in my work. So when I use 30 different, 40 different glazes on the top of each other, and first in a few hours, I kind of recognize which glaze I apply. But after 5, 6, 7, or a day after, I forget. And I slowly let go that control. And depends on how high you fire. And depends on, what kind of atmosphere you fire. Then glaze can change whatever it turns. So it's a longer time, maybe good colors all on the bottom. So that's not a really efficient way to, fire your work. And sometimes my work, I made a figures, as a marriage couple. During the firing, they divorce. Then as a couple, they split. Then sometimes they suicide because I fire, really high temperature. It's a 2400 Fahrenheit, which is a cone 10 highest. But I try to do this because I want something special and different than others. And there's a risky things. If I fire 10 works, I might like one or two. But those one or two probably beyond my imagination. So that's what I really, looking for. Then for that, I need a lot of, sacrifice. I'm not analyze my work much because, artists are supposed to be very prolific. So I based on my the drawings, ink drawings I built. But as I mentioned, it's two-dimensional drawings. I can create many different kind of the three-dimensional, sculpture. So even one work, it can be different kind of composition. I can make different works. And these days, I'm really suspicious about what I'm looking for about my work. I used to my works shared by many different viewers, their own stories. But I don't know. I'm thinking about what is a good arts. What's the definition of my good art? I think the work has lots of visual layers that can be a good work. The work make viewer think that can be a good work, and the work make someone feel something. That's a good work. The work makes somebody's perceptions change it or shift it. Make that's another probably level of good work. I don't know I can make that or not, but that's what I'm trying to do. Clay has a lot of limitations, and it's really difficult to make a larger scale. And I don't know why, but as a young artist, I wanted to make large. And it seems like kind of the medium's, expressional boundary is just there, but my mission is push that boundary. And that's, seems like, my mission. I don't know. So I try to make a larger scale work and architecture, the sculpture I was interested in. To make large, scale work, what's the worst enemy is a dryness. You cannot finish your work in week or two. You have to extend it month or two, and it all dries out. So first thing you solve is you should able to hydrate and dehydrate that process if you need it. So you can extend the time you can work. And also, you have to solve the issues of how you can move these things, how you're going to load to the kiln and unload, and how you're going to glaze and fire and install this heavy, the sculptures. I use, structures a little bit, and grid-like structure is a whole this, figure, and I built, forms out of this structure. Then I ready for the pick it up with the forklift to loading up. I made this work probably 1.5 months. Then what it's still kind of wet, but I'm moving to kiln. And this is a 20 minutes. It's a really exciting, heart pounding moment, to me. It can, happen something dramatically or tragically. Once you fire bisque, then it's a boring time. But, in my work, the glaze is very important, roles, it's doing. So for 3 days, 4 days, I apply glaze, layers of glaze. And after 3 days, I had no expression in my face. I get bored. And one came from bisque firing and one ready to fire for the glaze firing. So we're just waiting, and this is the result. I use, intense color actually. So my clay, even it's not white, I apply porcelainous white sleeve on the surface. So intense color reflects better in that. And this is a top section I made. And I made work separately and fire separately. And this is a moment become one work, which I imagined. Sometimes a skill make a work that your feelings, differently. And there's a power of scale. And I want to make, a few more if I can. But that was 10 years ago. And clay always appealed to me as a kind of three-dimensional medium. I never made two-dimensional tile about 10 years. And back of my head, I was curious about that, why I'm not making two-dimensional. So one year, I planned to make a mural. So I made 100 of tiles. Then it was a total fail. I only has 20 tiles, 80 of them cracked. So, but the tile itself, is very interesting and looks like, a new directions to me. So I wanted to make, more tiles, two-dimensional tile. And I heard about the Jinderjin, the city, the porcelain city in China. They make large-scale tiles and large-scale porcelain things. So I visit there one semester, and I made tiles. This is an example of their tile, and they fire large tile like this. Only 10% survive. So if they fire 10, they got one, and it glazed the surface. Then with the China paint, they make on the top of the shiny surface, they draw images meticulously few months. And I was there, one of the small factory, then asked about tiles. They brought tiles to me, and I drew with the blue and white. And every day I draw one for 14 hours. And this size of tile has a 60% survival rate, so it's a lot better. But to me, it was magical. And 3 days later, magically they delivered tiles. I wanted to make mural, 6 panel mural, but unfortunately, As I said, there's a 40% cracks like that. So I was able to make 2 sets of this, porcelain tile while I was in there 1 month. At this point, I kind of felt my studio has also limitations. So I wanted to go somewhere I can do things differently. And this is one of the museum in South Korea. It's called Clay Arch Kimhae Museum. It's funded in 80s, and it's about clay and architecture. So if you want to make larger scale kind of the sculpture and ceramic, you can go there. They used to have an international residency program. I don't know it happening, these days or not, but I was there for 3 months, and I made some of the sculpture. The reason was I was here for 25 years. Then I had my parents getting old, and I wanted to have some quality time with them while I was there and make work. And it was a time I wanted to evolve my work different directions. So I have 2 goals, and I was there. But unfortunately, 3 months before my arrival, my parents passed away. So it was kind of sad. But at that the museum, I wanted to make work for my parents. So I called that monument for parents. So I made that work and some other works too. The great things about the museums, they provide some helps. So I had 2 full-time assistants prepare the clay for me. Then I can leave there for 2 months and continuously I can make my work. Anywhere I go, a different country, and they have a different clay body, which is, in the States, we don't know much about how much benefits, we have. We have good clay ingredients, and whatever your purpose, you can make your own kind of formula. Then you can make it's wonderful things. If you go some other country, their industry not support the material. They using many natural ingredients, and which is really difficult. This clay was the same. I cannot dry fast. This clay just crack like crazy. After 2 months, and I have to stop and dry slowly. And when it dries, then a month later, I start glazing again. It's quite a amazing change. I think that this is one of the benefits. We're working with clay and glaze, and one day, one night, the glaze changed the surface dramatically. I mean, any other mediums, really difficult to do happen that, but only ceramics. This is advantage. Also, it has a disadvantage, but I really enjoyed the colors changing. So after 2 months, I keep firing these things. And generous enough, the museum gave me opportunity to have a show and kind of retrospective, show. So I collect all the works from my early career to at this point, and they give a wonderful solar show. They have a beautiful dome house, which is a natural light and huge, uh, and it was opening. And they brought, some of the small porcelain pieces from my studio in Georgia. Since then, I'm going many different places, which is I can do different things, naturally because they have a facility which I never, get it as a individual artist, such as place is a Kohler factory. Kohler is, to have a wonderful residency, both, that castings flip all the toilets and, urinals, you can use it. They cast those clay residency. And also they have the iron cast, residency there in Kohler, Wisconsin. Then I went there. I went to, the Shigaraki, Japan. There's a cultural park. Shigaraki has a wonderful residency program. And I was there too. And also Archie Bray Foundation in Montana is a wonderful place to be. And also I have, it's a few recent years I visit, China, which is Jinderjin is one of the city that the capital city of porcelain, they said. And what happened in China these days is a kind of amazing. About 10 years ago, they want to regain their glory in ceramics. And governments, pour billions of dollars last 10 years. And they started in different places, such as the Jinderjin and or Xi'an or Yixing, where they have a historic kind of heritage as celadons and and architectural ceramics. They built a new international residency museums and also the shops, fancy shops, thousands of them, and they invite hundreds of foreign artists these days. So after pandemic, they start opening it up again. Then they, doing lots of events internationally. And I was there last 2 years in China. See the opportunity, see the potential, what I can do, and change my work. And ceramics is not the individual work. Ceramic artists normally work together, and they fire together. They share their information, and that's typical things. But last few years, when we had a pandemic, and we kind of experience, and it makes our kind of the perception shifted, and we normally don't do this, not recommended, and ban or prohibit, avoid. But after pandemic, we know that can be our new normal, and lots of things happening after the pandemic, I think. So my works also changing through pandemics. I never made much about small utilitarian objects, but all by myself in lockdown during the pandemic, I start making small things. Then I appreciate to use it and share. I'm 65 years old. I think 30 of my years I tried to learn, educated myself. Then next 30 years I really work hard to find myself as an artist, as a human being. Then I don't know how long I can live, but I'm definitely in my last chapter. Then I want to make something differently, and that's my struggling these days. So I'm trying to make things from narrative to more abstract works. I used to express myself and work about myself. Then I want to make some work, not me, something else. I used to have with the purpose, and I wanted to make something meaningful, but now I want to make something meaningless. I want to make something without glazes. I just work with the clay itself. What clay has a beauty, then I just want to make that way. I would like to, share this work and as my last, in ceramics, there's so many things can happen, unpredictable, and you can explain. But after 40 years, working with the clay, I think, this can happen. And sometimes this uncertainties in the process of ceramics makes my driving force. And we think it's a failure, but it's somehow it reflects, our life. And there are, parallels to our life. Then I just want to share you. Then we can keep on going. Really bad. Oh no! What? I knew that was a really bad idea. Oh my god. This is it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sunkoo, for sharing everything you have to go through with your ceramic work and your life journey up until this time. Thank you so much. I'd like to open the floor up for questions. If you have questions, kindly raise your hand and I will get the microphone right next to you. I know we have questions. Who would like to start?
you're speaking of this shift from this narrative into more of like nothingness, like maybe not nothingness is the right word, but to where there isn't meaningless is what you were saying. What is that looking like for you? Is the process that you're doing, are you shifting your process as an artist, or are you letting go in a different way? What does that look like, especially in ceramics? Because it's there's a lot of room for that.
I think I watched that comedy series, Seinfeld, and there's a one episode that they proposed a show, you know, doing nothing, right? But actually, it's not doing nothing. It's doing it can be anything. I think it's the opposite way. When we see our works, my work especially, it's narratives and there's a stories and tons of images. You can imagine something, but sometimes that's a restriction, I think. And if you see somebody else's abstract painting, maybe you can imagine more things than linear narrative works. So I think I dig it in a long time, for 30 years maybe, about the meaning of my works and about myself to understand. And at this point, I'm kind of sick and tired of it. And I want to make, as a last phrase I mentioned, I want to make something else, not me, but maybe for somebody else except me. And this is probably start. So about the color too, I think I'm giving up all the color, but originally I really admire someone's make work really earthy and kind of strong impressions, like Stephen D. Stable. I don't know you guys recognize his work. He's a sculptor in California, and or Jean Pierre Rareau, the Canadian sculptor. And those people just using clay without any glazes, but the clay color, and it's really strong, expression they create in their work. Um, as a kind of the artist, young artist, I wanted to use a color first intentionally, and there's a two path you see. Then I choose my unfavorite path first. It took 30 years. I'm still doing it, but it's just time. I just want to dig or go travel my favorite path. That's what I'm kind of trying to do. So it can be a good.
Hi. So, earlier you were talking about your definition of like what is your good art.
Mm.
Do you think that has changed?
No, I think it's a still. That's some of the the definition of my good work. I'm never gonna accomplish, right? And especially we see a lot of good images, layer of images, or layer of psychology, right? Through the works we think a lot. It makes and good works, not like advertisements. You not understand right away. If it's a good advertisement, you have to do that. But as a art, I don't think that's what you need. Longevity of art, which is not revere right away, but it's bleaching the good things slowly maybe. And if you go revisit and see something more, you find more things. That's a good art, I think. That's my definition. But beyond that, I don't know, I mentioned this, last night's MFA kind of seminar. Have you ever confront, real good arts, make you think, and or you can feel something? Any works you just in front of that emotionally, they're charging from that work. It's a rare experience. That kind of level, I think, it's not easy to accomplish it. And not many people can do that. Not many artists can do that. And beyond that, what I mentioned about shift your perception, and that's not easy. I mean, I don't know. That's probably ideal. And I sometimes imagine myself, you know, like a speed gun. You can measure the speed, right? But if there is a gun for emotion, you can measure, your emotional level in the future. Maybe one scientist, invent that, kind of device. You can check your emotional level. And each art, you can just check which one is a good art, which one is not good art, right? So that kind of, the things you just imagine. But we probably never, achieve that, level. But I think, that's the high level of, good art, I think. We dream about it. Or somebody can, make that happen. We wish to, see those kind of work, right?
We still have room for a few more questions.
Sorry to make you go back and forth like that. I just really want to thank you for being you. I want to thank you for your work, this life work. And and what I want to ask about is a little bit about the presentation. I'm in awe of your presentation, and it's you the pacing and these different themes as you went along, and it's building and building until the finale, kind of as I saw it, with the uncontrollable, the mistakes, uncertainty, all happening in that tumble at the end. And so first, just I want to express that, but I want to ask, as you, and I don't know how many times you've talked about your work in sort of a retrospective kind of way that I felt like today. And so I don't know how many times, but my question is what insights have you gained from putting this together today, or maybe whenever you put it together, and if you've done it many, many times, so any insights from the process of telling this story the way you've told it to us today?
I mean, every time, I'm not doing same kind of, presentation. And that's my things, actually. Some people doing same talk over and over. But this time, I thought about, what's the goal? What's the desire we have as an artist, right? I wanted to kind of, give ideas, what was important to me as an artist, which is, I want to be uniquer than any other people, right? Seems like, when I was young, seems like everybody already used the, the way, the technically and, conceptually, right? So it's really hard to find what's a unique way. Then that's why I'm doing, different things, right? Technically and conceptually, try to understand myself. So hope, that's what I really try to do. We all different individual as an artist. And I think, there's a different way we can produce art. Some people, and, plan A to Z and follow that, kind of a plan. And like me, as an intuitive and, spontaneous person, then we cannot, make any plan. We just, have a vague idea. Then we follow that and some, result and residue, and we just chasing that and evolve, our way. So what I really want to try to say is everybody individual is a unique and different. Then we have to find our own way, our own mechanism, how our works, evolves and come. And I think, that's what I wanted to convey. I don't know. I mean, uh, every time it's a different. Sometimes I'm in zone and talk better and convey my ideas better. And sometimes it doesn't happen, but I don't know. But that was my, kind of uh, idea when I set it up last night and a few days, I just choose, other images and kind of set it up. I hope.
Hello. First, thank you so much for sharing your work. I know the ceramic is such a labor-intensive work, so I very much admire to see the whole process of your, especially the big sculpture work that you share with us. I have a multiple questions. First, you can I'm interested about your color for your big sculpture. You can use a full color sleeve to control your color, but you intentionally using a multiple layers of the glazing in order to make this dropping watermark.
Mhm.
How that visual elements are important for your piece, and also your ink drawing and your tile, you limited your color palette, but the big sculpture, you intentionally try to create a high contrast color. How that color palettes and also dripping elements are important for your piece. That's my first questions. And throughout this beginning of your work to now, you are keep dragging into creating a human figures. I know you mentioned about this coming from your dream or culture references, but I'm just curious about as an artist, like why human? That's keep appear into your work.
Okay. The color, I mentioned, earlier, it was not my, favorite path. But as an artist, I wanted to use color, right? So my favorite, directions was just color. I mean, clay itself, strong, but intentionally I use the color. And I use the color and sick and tired, I just, throw the color and I wanted to go my own, favorite path. But while I'm using the color, and there's the things I learned, things I really like about it, right? Especially, that uncontrollable aspects. And color make my work has a lots of, images, forms. Then color makes, and especially the drippy colors makes, it's kind of confuse the viewer. They really, hard to figure it out what that is. Right? So that means, I mentioned earlier, it's not advertisement. You shouldn't understand my work, right away. It just kind of delays, the viewers kind of understanding. Right? So that colors, helps when kind of makes everything ambiguous. And it, kind of time they can come back and find more. And the gravities, that pulls down all the colors makes, kind of emotional quality. I don't know what that is exactly, but when you see and feel that changes of colors, and that makes kind of a slow down, right? So it's a good, kind of, the elements as a make good art, I think, right? It's kind of, slow down, reveal the real, kind of ish, right? Your meanings. And about I always interested in the form, human form, and I think I don't know why, but as I said at the beginning, my work's about kind of image I have, my concerns I have inside of me, and it's kind of transformation, and it's 2D to selectively I make 3D sculpture. So it's I don't know why I'm not using figure. I'm just transforming whatever the image I create. Then I create 3 dimensional. And recent work, I'm making abstract work. Then there's no reason to. And but this is what I've kind of follows. Right? And this is my trier, right? What is how my works evolves. I don't quite don't know yet. Then I don't really satisfied what I've been made last few years work. Right? It seems like I'm doing over and over, same thing. But I was want to change and turn it evolve, into some other directions. So we'll see why I'm doing it, in the future. Okay.
Hi. You mentioned a lot about growing as an artist. What advice or practices do you feel like helped you grow the most as an artist throughout your life? In both like conceptually your art and like technically.
I think everybody has a different kind of faith, and some people love conceptual kind of approach first, right? And some people have technical kind of aspects, right? But as a good artist, you have to have a both, right? But it doesn't really matter. You have to understand and raise up at the same time. But depends on who you are. If you are really interested in some technical issues, then why don't you just do that? Then along the way, you think about the other side, which is content and concepts. What you're really trying to do with your art. Right? So I think everybody has a different pace, but I should bring it up in the years you're working with that. That the most important thing is you have to figure it out. If you are really in a good path. Right? I mean, that's what I really uh, tried a lot. That when I was young, I'm in the right kind of path. I have talent, enough talent or not, and I want to be just mediocre artist. I want to be a real passionate artist because I lost my passion when I was young. I want to be a baseball player. In Korea, there's no professional baseball. So my parents says, there's no future. You cannot do that. So, which is, when I was young still, but I was very passionate about, baseball. And it seems like, I have a good talent, at the time, but I couldn't do that. And after that, I really hard to find my passionate way. Then I just, think, the artist is the living as an artist may be very meaningful the way. So I just try. So I from the beginning, I have a lot of questions about that. Right? Am I on the right track? And I'm having really good, that I deserve to be an artist or not. So I just test myself, and I have to get that answer, right? So slow, and that makes confidence. Once you get over one layer of and you got some confidence after that, and it's gained little by little, but it took a long time to gain. Now I think I'm pretty okay as an artist. I felt right, and what I'm thinking right now is, am I a master then in ceramics and clay? And I'm thinking about, what is master then? What is a real master? What kind of qualification I need? And we keep questioning about ourselves. So you have to keep growing. Yes, sir.
Excuse me. I enjoyed your talk a lot. I wanted to ask. You mentioned being here 36 years ago.
Mhm.
I was curious what you mentioned coming for a lecture. I just was really curious if you recall what the lecture was, and then beyond that, what your impressions were of the place, and if you encountered it, the ceramics program at that time.
I haven't seen any, I mean, much, at the time. It was a very short visit, and a bunch of, the college kids, right? Drove down 3-4 hours, It was a really lure, right? The hills, and, we came here, and I don't remember the lectures, clearly, right? Then at the time, so I just came to the States, actually, right? So it was maybe 1 year. So I don't understand much about, but I remember, the Penn State. I think, there was a lecture series, maybe it was one of the, lecture series you guys had 35 years ago. I think it was 80, 89 or 90, but I think it's 89. So yeah.
Hi, thanks for your talk, and I really enjoyed a lot of things you said, and you made mention of your own age, and it was mentioned that there's a kind of retrospective quality to the way you've presented your work here. So I was sitting here thinking, and I'm not the first person by any stretch to have noticed this, but a lot of artists and scientists and writers and musicians really do their best work in their 20s and early 30s. And if you run certain artists that you might admire through your head and look at their date of birth, that's I've noticed that as well. Right? Like if I think about artists that I like, um, and then I can think of a handful who did make significant and good work into their 60s and 70s. So my question is, have you paid any particular attention or made a kind of I don't want to say scholarly study, if you will, or some kind of like interest in the work produced by artists who are over the age of 65, 68, and 70? And if so, have you seen ones where you feel like, oh, this artist was making still really good work over the age of 65 or 70 or even 80? Or do you look at it, have you found somewhere you think, oh, it reinforces that idea that their best work was in their 30s and 40s?
I don't know. I don't see anybody especially, I compare. And but some of the artists, maybe Tony Craig in his 70s, 80s is still, work, right? Greatly. In ceramic artists, there's some, artists like Jun Ganeko. He worked till, 70, 80s, the energies, what he has. And it was amazing. And that's probably, things I just compared. Then I, said, this is my last chapter, right? And I don't know how long I can, work, and if I lucky enough and still have a good health, and maybe at least I can work 10 more years, maybe 5 more years, and that's a lot of time. And I can, make things dramatically, when we have more idea, then when we have a more kind of financial kind of, support, right? And I have other ideas which I cannot do it, but somebody can do it for me. For example, I wanted to make, that as a bronze. I don't have any money, but if I can, right, financially I can, or somebody support me, then I wanted to do that. So the work itself, maybe, actually I make, but I have another kind of stage I can go. So some ideas I have, like a Jeff Koons, maybe. Right? What he's doing is, idea he got and he made. I mean, each artist have to draw their lines, and I'm not the one like that. I just have to make my way, and I have to pinch and create my own work, and my assistants cannot make work like that. So my line is there, but and somehow I can probably a little bit more freer, and I have an idea. I have a really great kind of idea when I go to China. They in hundreds of years they worked that way, and from the Ming Dynasty, which is 700 years ago, they made a work in thousands of porcelain, millions of porcelain they export to the Europe, right? And the way they made, they work like a modern industry. So someone who works make clay, someone who makes certain things, decorate. So through the years, they work that way, and that tradition is still there. So if I go to China, I don't need to make 12 feet tall vase. I pay, I buy. Then I, draw or decorate or carve and whatever I wanted to do. Then they fire for me. So, I mean, that kind of, work I can probably do in the different kind of level, different, stage. Maybe I can be more freer. I don't need to do that all, but somehow the resources, make us to do that. So,
We're taking our last question for the day.
Hi. I'm sorry I was like really late. So maybe you already explained this, but I really like this y- this work here. But I'm just like really curious. I need to know like what is this like red like kind of like is that like paint like or like the brown like drooping like is that like was that intentional or is that kind of just like I really just want to know like what that is kind of.
no, there's no such things, I told you that the glazing is, I'm not controlling, right? I just put a color on the top of my work, and firing, make that happens. And if I have an intention, it's probably not fun. It's probably not, unique. And everybody does that way. So I just, put all the, ingredient on the top of it and fire it and see what's happening. Right.
In a few words, can you give us an advice, especially those up and coming? What would you tell the young artist or an aspiring artist
I think,
what to do?
working hard is, bottom line, I think, right? If you want to see, who you are, and And that's basic and bottom line. And explore when you were young. Travel a lot when you were young. And you have to see the world, which is, you cannot speak, but you got to go and see the world. That's probably the best investments when you were young. And I recommend that. And try to understand who you are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. On behalf of Sunkoo and the other 5 artists we've had this fall, I would like to say thank you to all the familiar faces, instructors that bring in their students. I would like to say thank you so much. I do hope that in spring, you can come on your own without your instructors. And so in spring, we still have 4 artists. So I would like you to monitor that and be reminded that this lecture and the many others would be recorded or have been recorded, and you can rewatch them on the Arts and Architecture YouTube channel. Thank you so much for coming. Have a great semester.